Okay. Hey, review real quick here. What we learned about on Friday. The government set up a system to get us a base of soldiers to draw from called the Selective Service Administration, right? What's the fancy word nowadays that we use for selective service? The draft, right? The draft. If you are drafted in the military, do you have a choice of whether or not you go or not? Nope. Is the draft still around today? Yes. Every boy in here, when you turn 18, you will have to register for the draft. If we ever need to draft, then your name is in the hat, and then the government can pull from that. Is the draft or was the draft controversial during World War II?
No.
Not at all. Not at all. Only during one conflict in American history will the draft be controversial. What conflict did I say? Vietnam War. And we're going to learn about that. We're going to learn about that later this year. It's going to be so controversial that tens of thousands of Americans, they get drafted and they say, you know what? Screw it. I'm not an American anymore. I'm leaving the United States and never coming back rather than going to fight in that conflict. Tens of thousands of Americans, well, less than that, are also going to say, I am not going to fight in that conflict. Throw me in jail for the next 5 years instead. All right, that's how controversial it's going to be. Americans are going to burn their draft card in public, breaking the law. All right, we'll get into it. Zach?
Why?
We'll get into that, okay? A question of why we'll get into when we cover the Vietnam War, okay? So the voluntary enlistment, though, was the main reason, the main way of rousing up a military, okay? So now we're going to get into number 2 here. How did the government prepare the economy for war? And how did every American at home contribute to World War II, okay? Why does the economy need kind of refocused here in the late 1930s? What are we going through still in the 1930s that is an economic issue? We got this Great Depression thing going on, right? So FDR, and if anybody ever tells you that FDR's New Deal, all these government programs to get Americans back to work, got us out of the Great Depression, not necessarily so, okay? Guess what gets us out of the Great Depression? The war, okay? World War II. And here's why. FDR is going to refocus our industries to focus on what kind of demands do you think? War, okay? War demands. He is going to call on companies, on industries to refocus what they make. Instead of making toasters, make guns. Instead of making automobiles, make planes, all right? Make bombers. Instead of making consumer products that Americans aren't buying anyways because we don't have the money during the Great Depression, make war machines, make tanks, make planes, make ships, make guns, make bullets, all right? Make artillery shells, make this stuff. And that is going to be what gets Americans back to work, okay? Let's see if anybody can guess who this one is, all right? This is a guy, all right, one of the major industrialists of the last century in the automobile industry. What do you think, Dakota? Ford. Henry Ford is going to convert his factories from making cars to making war machines, specifically planes. All right. Anybody know what this B stands for? Bomber. B-24s, B-25s, B-29, Super Fortresses later. All right. Bombers. So now, ironically, Henry Ford is quoted a few years before this time. He said, I will never make a war machine in any one of my factories. I will burn my factories to the ground before I ever make anything that is capable of killing somebody else. War is evil. War is death, and I want no part of it. And here, just a couple years later, he's making war machines. What changed? Pearl Harbor, all right? We were attacked, okay? The mood of the nation totally changed, and now his factories are making these things. So Dakota, were you going to say something?
Yeah, B-24s were mainly used for infantry transport.
It's smaller. Yep, smaller. We'll talk about B-25s are going to be used, the first ones to be used on a aircraft carrier. All right. We got so good at making stuff in our industries that we could build one Liberty ship in just 40 days. All right. These are massive troop carrying ships that can carry a few thousand troops. Usually it'd take a nation half a year to build one of these. We were putting one out almost every month. All right. The U.S. production of war goods doubled the production of all the, what's the bad guys called in World War II? All the Axis powers combined. So if you take all the planes, tanks, ships, guns, bullets, everything that Germany, Italy, and Japan made and put it in one big pile, and then just put what the United States alone made, our pile was bigger. All right. Our industrial output was awesome. By 1945, the United States had built 300,000 planes, 80,000 landing craft. I want to talk about that. What the heck is a landing craft? We haven't got here yet. We're going to learn about these things in the next section. Anybody know what a landing craft does? What is it?
Amphibious assault.
Yes. All right. This is what we're going to see on D-Day. Okay. Imagine, so if we're looking at a Liberty ship that carries about 2,000 dudes, how close to shore, and we need to get, we're going to have to do this over and over again, every island across the Pacific, and the big one on June 6, 1944, D-Day, right, where we're going to have to come ashore in Europe to fight Nazi Germany. We're going to have to get these dudes ashore. How close to shore do you think a Liberty ship that carries 2,000 guys can get to shore?
One day station like a mile out.
Yeah, like a mile out, right? Because why? Why can't they get all the way up to shore? They sit so low in the water, right? They sit 30, 40 feet below the water, so they can't get that close to shore. So landing craft are how we get our dudes and our equipment actually all the way to the shore. So they park, essentially, the big ships a mile out at sea, and then everybody hops in these little landing craft, okay? They're like Mississippi flood boats, swamp boats that can go all the way up to the beach, and you've seen these, and we'll look at them when we cover D-Day. The front of them just, whoop, come down right onto the beach, and 50 guys can just come out, So those are the landing craft we're going to use over and over again throughout this. 100,000 tanks, 5,600 ships, 6 million rifles, and 41 billion rounds of ammo. That's going to get Americans back to work, okay? Now, let's look at how life was affected here on the home front during World War II. As I said, every single American, no matter how old or how young, is going to contribute to the war effort. Everybody is going to be called on. If you're not called on, 18 to 27-year-old males to go fight, like 16 million dudes are, you're going to be called on here at home to do other things. So that's what we're looking at here, okay? This is an economic term that nearly disappeared during the war. Anybody have a guess as to what this one is? Not debt. We are actually have a little bit of increase in debt. This refers to how many Americans are out of work. This is a term you hear in the news all the time. Unemployment. All right, unemployment. Unemployment nearly disappeared during the war. That means Americans, we're all working. There was enough jobs. There was more jobs than we had Americans, because we have part of the labor force are being trained to go fight, right? 16 million guys that are leaving the labor force to go fight the evils in the world. And so everybody else, there's plenty of jobs for everybody else. And now we have something to make, right? War machines. And so unemployment, which just was at 20% during the Great Depression, goes to zero during World War II. Americans, though, however, are going to go without, all right, basic common consumer goods during the war, thanks to shortages and rations. So if companies are being called upon to only make war machines, Whirlpool General Electric called on, stop making toasters and instead make guns. What are Americans going to go without? Toasters, right? If Henry Ford's company is going to make bombers, planes instead of cars, what are Americans going to go without? Cars, right? So all these companies are going to go to making war stuff. That means consumer goods that make our lives easy and nice and comfortable are going to be short in supply. All right, we're going to go without nylon socks because the nylon is needed for parachute strings and parachutes, right? We're going to go without the comfort things. Now, I want to talk about this here. And Americans are going to be called on to ration. Ration. That's one of your terms. What does it mean to ration something? Micah, what do you think? Right. Imagine the best example I can give is imagine all of us go on a little boat trip today. All right. And we're out in the middle of the ocean and our boat springs a leak and we have to abandon on an island. Okay. And we're waiting to be rescued. We don't know if it's going to be days. We don't know if it's going to be weeks. We don't know if it's going to be longer than that. And so we take account of everything that we have. We have 8 jugs of water, 20 boxes of crackers, 20 cans of soup. We take all our food. Would we want to have a big cookout, luau, smorgasbord on the first day we're there? What would we want to do with our food and our water? Ration it, right? That means we're going to split it up, day by day so that we can last as long as possible. That's what Americans are going to be called to do. We need all the mass-produced foodstuffs to go to our soldiers overseas. So Americans are going to be called on to ration. I have a couple of these. I'm going to show you some examples. These are actual ration books. This is what they came in. Every American family would have got one of these every month, once a month, and you had to use the ration stamps inside. So if I wanted to go to the dollar store and buy a pound of sugar, I had to turn in the sugar stamp saying I haven't used my family's ration of sugar for that month, right? What if I ran out of sugar stamps and I still needed some sugar? Tough luck, right? Flour, if I needed flour, I had to turn in my stamp, then pay for the flour, coffee, okay? All this stuff is going to be rationed. Now, since there are a bunch of leftover stamps in these things, and there are hundreds and hundreds of thousands of these floating around America, and I'll pass these around. Since there's so many stamps left over, what does that tell you Americans did? They did a heck of a job. They did a very good job. They used less than what the government even called on them to use. So ration stamps were an idea, but not even necessary. I wonder if Americans could do this nowadays. What if the government called on us, hey, to win the war on terror and defeat terrorism, we need all the energy that we can get. So Americans will call on you to only use your cell phones for 10 minutes a day. Social media, only 10 minutes a day. I don't know if Americans will be able to do that, all right? So because we were short on this stuff, the Office of Price Administration was created to stop this. Let's see if anybody can guess what this blank is. If there is a shortage of all these consumer goods, all right, there's a shortage of toasters, shortage of automobiles, shortage of nylon socks, shortage of this stuff. What could those companies do to the price of those goods if there's not that many of those things? How's supply and demand work? If there's not much of something, what can they do to the price of it?
Bring it up.
Increase it. What's it called when prices increase and it's bad for the economy? Inflation. All right. So the Office of Price Control was created to stop inflation and control rationing. That means the government set prices, essentially saying, no, you're not allowed to charge more for these things just because there's a shortage of them, because that's going to cause inflation. We've talked about inflation in America over the last couple of years, causing price increases. That's why the UAW, the auto workers, one of the reasons they want more pay, higher wages because of inflation. All right. Rationing was used to ensure that citizens only used what they needed. And you see those rationing stamps going around with some of them are spares, different things. You had to turn in a ration stamp in order to buy something. Public support for the war was extremely high. We were attacked. All Americans wanted to contribute, and they contributed in many different ways here on the home front. Life was changed on the home front. Americans were called on to plant victory gardens. Every American family was called on to plant their own garden in their own yard. Even if you lived in a city and only had a little 8-foot by 10-foot swath of yard that you mowed. All right. Hey, stop mowing it and till it, plant a garden. What's the idea here? How could every American planting a little garden help us win a stinking world war? Dakota?
If there's more produce being made at home, we can ship more overseas.
Right. If Bella's family is making food at home, what does Bella's family? Where does her family not need to go as often to buy food? The store, right? So that means the mass-produced food that usually goes to the store, where can it go? Troops, the soldiers, 16 million dudes going off to fight this thing. So feed yourself. Become more self-sufficient with a victory garden.
There's a really funny story about this. In the Pacific Theater, we had 3 concrete barges over there that were specifically used as ice cream stations.
Ice cream stations?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. We had so much excess dairy and sugar and flavoring that the troops over in the Pacific could get ice cream whenever they wanted.
That's good. Good for them. They deserved it. Okay. Americans joined civil defense. Civil defense organizations were organized in every small town. All right. Jeanette Hutton had its own civil defense organization, joining the Red Cross, organizing blackouts in every small town. Why? What if the siren goes off at 9:30 at night in Janate and Hutton, and we're calling for a blackout. What are we practicing for? What are Americans supposed to do? What is Janate and Hutton supposed to do when this blackout occurs? Turn off lights. Turn off lights. Preparing for what might possibly happen down the road. Bombing, right? Invasion. Make your city, make our little town invisible from the night or from the sky. What's that?
What's the Red Cross?
Red Cross is a volunteer organization that helps out in emergencies. Red Cross would go if there's a hurricane. The Red Cross would send medical personnel and food and water to that location. So the Red Cross is going to help out with the war effort. Okay, and Americans organized recycling drives. Let's recycle all the junk we've got sitting around our homes. This Saturday, bring your rubber to the town square here in Janate and Hutton. Next Saturday, it's aluminum. Following Saturday, it's going to be steel. Next Saturday, it's going to be paper. All right. Let's make use of all the stuff we have sitting around to recycle to make war machines and put it towards the war effort. All right. So every American is going to help out. I want to show you some examples of this here. Maybe. Yep. All right. Here we go. All right. These would have been posters that would have been in magazines, would have been on walls in schools and in workplaces all across America. All right. You could call these propaganda. It's information that's used to try to persuade a population to do something, good or bad. Okay. So I want to see if you see what the idea is with this one. When you ride alone, you ride with Hitler. Join a car sharing club today. What's this talking about, D? How are you helping Hitler though? How's this dude just going to work by himself? How is he helping the enemy? What do you think? He's wasting gas, right? Hey, carpool, pick up your buddies. So that this fuel isn't going to your one car with one person in it. That fuel that you're not wasting can go where?
The other people.
What other people? Troops, right? Our trucks, our Jeeps, our tanks, our ships, our planes, all right? Use that fuel for that. Join a car sharing club, okay? Erase that face. Hitler, erase his face with this file. Tools are weapons. Keep them working, all right? So this is just a laborer here at home, all right? Don't go on strike. Just keep working, and we're going to get rid of Hitler and the evil. How about this? Who's this guy? What's his nickname? Uncle Sam, right? This is like the government, all right? This is America, okay? He says, I'm counting on you. Shh, don't discuss troop movements, ship sailings, war equipment. Keep everything on the down low. What's he talking about? What's he want Americans to do? If your husband is in the military and he's going to ship out on a certain date and to a certain location and you know it, what should you do? Keep quiet. Be quiet. Why? Why we need to keep this stuff secret? Good?
Nazi spies.
Spies, okay? Here's the deal. We are a nation that is built on immigration. Every one of you got here through immigration, okay? At some point in your history, your ancestors, your great-grandparents or great-great-grandparents, or maybe it was just grandparents, decided to come here. Guess what? At this time, a quarter of all immigrants, guess what country they came from?
Europe.
Countries. Yeah, most of them came from Europe. What country? Germany. A quarter, 25% of Americans living in America at this time came from Germany. Who are we fighting against? Germany, right? So keep it quiet. Don't. And here's what else is going on when we talk about the Battle of the Atlantic. When we get into the war in Europe tomorrow, Germany's going to start using these things that they used during World War I that are very, very deadly on the high seas. What are they? U-boats, submarines. All right. See if they know when our troop ships are heading out. If they have intel, we could be in trouble. So keep it secret, all right? Counting on every American. Here you go. Victory Gardens. Americans, help win this stuff at home. You can feed yourself, then all the food that's mass-produced can go to the troops. This is one of the most famous ones from World War II. We can do it. Who's we?
America.
No. Women. All right, women. Look at her. Muscular woman. Anybody know what this woman's nickname is? Rosie the Riveter. Rosie the Riveter, all right? This is the poster woman for American women to join the workforce. If 16 million dudes are going off to fight the Japanese and fight the Germans and fight the Italians in both theaters of war, who is this calling on to take their place in the factories doing what is not typically women's work? Women, right? Women. We can do it. Let's join the workforce. Let's become welders and riveters and workers, manual labor. We can do what men can do. This is going to have a good impact on women down the road after the war, all right? Because at this time, what are women expected to do in America? Stay at home, pop out the babies, take care of the home, all right? Not go to work, okay? But during World War II, they're going to be called to do that, okay? Rosie the Riveter. Warning. Our homes are in danger now. You got Hitler with his Luger just preying on the East Coast, ready to pounce. This Japanese imperial soldier with blood on his knife, ready to pounce on the West Coast. What can we do about it? What can we do about it here at home? We're not soldiers. Our job, keep them firing, all right? Keep our soldiers going by keeping working. Keep our factories pumping out the production. Even this old 65-year-old miner can help out by keeping the coal coming, keeping our ships going, keeping the industries putting out war equipment. Here's another way Americans were called on. Hey, fight if you're a soldier, but if you're not, you can still win the war by buying war bonds. Americans are going to pay for World War II. We are going to pay for World War II by loaning our government money in the form of bonds. A bond is something you can buy from the government. If you buy a $100 bond in 5 years, you get $125 back. It's an investment. Americans are going to buy these more than ever to pay for this thing. We'll have lots to eat this winter, won't we, Mom? Yeah. Grow your own, can your own, all right? Feed your own family. Look at all this food they got from their victory garden. That's food they don't have to buy from the stores. That's food that can be shipped to our soldiers. Loose lips might sink ships. Shh, be quiet. Enemies all around us. Here's rationing stamps, rationing books, all right? How about this one? Food is a weapon. Don't waste it. Buy only what you need. Buy wisely. Cook carefully. Eat it all. Clean up your plate, right? Food is a weapon. Food will help win the war, so clean up your plate. Don't eat more than you need. Only cook what you need. No leftovers. Here's some stamps, sugar, coffee, a spare. If you need a flour, you had to turn in that stamp to buy it. And here's Donald Duck calling on Americans to buy victory bonds, okay? All right, we'll stop right there. You got the rest of the time to work on your terms. Your terms are due on Wednesday. I'll put up America's time in the background as you're working on your terms.